Live from the McAlpin Fine Arts Center at Indian River State College, it's Voices of the River. And now, here's the host of Voices of the River, Laura Metcalf.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're really glad you're here today. This is a first for Indian River State College. We've never done a talk show like this before, but we thought it might be a fun way to tell the stories of the river, and we are thrilled you're here. Before I introduce our first guest, I'm just going to tell you a tiny bit about me. I work in the Indian River State College Foundation, and you might ask, what's the foundation? What does it do? We're the fundraising component of the college. We're located in the A building, and the folks that work there are in charge of raising money for scholarships, the Promise program, and anything else the college requests. I oversee alumni relations here at Indian River State College, as well as annual giving. And now I'm going to introduce you to our guests today. First, we have Kathy Ergel. Kathy grew up in East Tennessee, but has called Port St. Lucie home ever since she graduated from high school. Next, we have Sydney Dupree. Sydney graduated from Indian River State College, and you might recognize her. She's an actress. Next up, we've got Rayanna Cebulski. Ray got her associate's degree here in 2024 and is working on her bachelor's. And last but not least, Carol Ann Summers. Carol Ann has multiple degrees and works at Indian River State College. Thank you all for being here today. This is an exciting first on our campus. So, Kathy,
Yes.
we're going to start with you today. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Indian River State College.
Sure. I relocated from East Tennessee after graduation from high school. I wasn't sure what I was going to major in college. I remember my mom saying, you need to get a job with insurance. So I ended up working at a hospital. Out of curiosity, I just started taking classes at Indian River State College just to start the process. But as I worked in the health field, it just kind of, in meeting and talking with people, it just kind of merged that way. I tell a funny story that when I was in the hospital, I did not like the sight of blood. I was a secretary, and this was not the path I was going to go down. But like I said, I took my time and was taking a lot of my prereq courses. So then one thing led to another, and I ended up applying to the nursing program, which I had an awesome experience with. I received my associate's degree in 1995. Just for all of you out there, sometimes there's no rush. It took me quite a few years to finish my prerequisites, working full time and going to school with a lot of support from the school, and knowing that I didn't have to have it so planned out that I had to graduate by a certain time. Once I entered the nursing program, it did have to meet certain, criteria to finish. But I ended up graduating, and then was a bedside nurse, labor and delivery nurse for many, many years. And then the progression to leadership formed. And with that, I came back to Indian River State College to obtain my bachelor's, which wonderful program as well, very supportive, and I am now the manager of a labor and delivery unit and mother-baby unit tradition. The interesting part is something in my career that I never ever thought I would be exposed to, and I learned a lot about construction. When we were building tradition, they allowed the nursing teams to be part of that. So we were not necessarily at the end product, but actually going into the units as they were forming in no walls and going up on outside elevators with no walls. And
Were you allowed to provide input
Yes.
as they were designing and building?
we did. We were able to actually, a lot of questions that they had, they came to the nursing team to say, would that work for, would that flow for, what you guys do? So I feel that the nursing team did contribute enough to kind of manage that hospital and in the design. So I'm very proud of that.
And you don't always hear that about nurses.
No.
Nurses truly are the lifeblood of hospitals. They really, really are. And so often it's the doctors who receive the accolades. So to be that involved in a project must have really been quite exciting.
And I will just kind of put a plug. I work for Tradition Hospital, but I am very supportive of education. I always have, because I'm an alumni from Indian River State College, any turn, any corner that I can promote education and bring, because sometimes it's hard. In that environment, when students are involved, sometimes it's like, patients are, just because they're in a really vulnerable place, but that is our number one focus, because we need to continue filling positions in nursing, and how we do that is really helping support those that are pursuing those careers, and they have to start somewhere. So I am a big advocate at the hospital that we incorporate students in that journey. So 100%.
When you got your RN and then your BSN, were you also working full-time?
Yes.
And how did that go for you? I'm curious.
It's a little bit of sacrifice, because you have to kind of know where your balance is. For my associate's degree, I worked a lot of weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, and went to school during the week. So you have to kind of play that balance. The bachelor side of it was awesome, because at that time, in 2013, it was a blended course, so I was able to be some online and some in class, so that really helped support that. So amazing opportunity there. But yeah, I work full-time in both situations. So it can be done, and that's why I made that point at the beginning, that sometimes don't be in a rush. If you're not sure what you're pursuing or what your ideas are yet, sometimes it's just laying the foundation and the groundwork, and then things develop as you continue in your courses and your classes, and you may even see a deviation in it. But sometimes that preset, I need to have everything kind of in a bow, doesn't necessarily work, but you end up finding your passion in the course of it. So.
And before we move on to another guest, was there anyone that really helped you along on the path? Was there a terrific advisor or professor that kind of pushed you along and you knew you had somebody you could lean on through this?
100%. The nursing instructors are amazing, and actually anybody who is venturing into the nursing program, if you haven't seen the sim lab over at St. Lucie West, it is probably one of the top simulation. I mean, even from the hospital perspective, we're in awe, because it was so real-like. But that was an investment to really make sure we're producing and giving nurses the experience. But Jenny Doak, who I know has since retired, was somebody who always, even though I may have not been in a course with her, you always kind of need that one person to kind of, like, where are you at now? And I would see her at the hospital, and she would actually stop and take a few moments to say, okay, how is that course going? Even though she wasn't teaching it, what are you involved in now? What are you seeing? And sometimes you just have somebody throughout that academic journey that touches base with you, that makes, and like I said, a lot of times it wasn't this huge, astronomical advice that kind of changed. It was just like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And that made a difference.
The consistency,
yeah,
for
100%,
sure.
100%.
Before we move on, I know I said that once already, but Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about the Sim Lab for those in the audience?
The simulation lab actually is almost a mini hospital. It has each room designed for a specific need. So I know there's a labor room over there. I know there is an ED emergency room. There's a mental health room. There's actually an OR. So in preparation, you have this real feel-like simulation where it's not just a PowerPoint, or it's not just verbal, it is actually hands-on. And they have, even there's a hallway corridor with wheelchairs, like even how to transport a patient, to the point of get the patient in the OR, what happens there. So a nurse's station, because some of those things just to kind of interact with that, but it is 100% amazing. And they run drills, simulations, courses out there to meet whatever, like if somebody's involved in maternity, they're presenting emergencies or information and education. But it is a sight to be seen, because it is absolutely, we were in awe.
Absolutely. They had their grand opening on our Pruitt campus 2 years ago, and I happened to attend that grand opening. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I saw, and I brought my own mom to that grand opening, and she too is a nurse. And my mother could not get over the training that nurses at Indian River State College get. Thank you, Kathy,
You're
for
so
so
welcome.
much info and for
You're
telling your
welcome.
story.
Absolutely.
Rayanne, I am hitting you up next. So Ray is a 2024 graduate with her associate's degree in criminal justice
Yes.
and is now pursuing a bachelor's degree here at Indian River State College. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to Indian River State College, what you found when you got here, and where you're going.
So to first off start, I just want to thank the Promise program because in my senior year of high school, I didn't know what to do yet. I was almost going to take a year off. But when Indian River State College visited my high school and told us about the Promise program, it made me feel some type of way that I've never felt before, and that was relief and hope. It not only helped me boost my confidence for getting involved, and I said to myself when I heard about the Promise program, I said to myself, this is my chance to get involved and to change my life, because I regretted not getting involved in my senior high school year. But it not only helped me boost my confidence, but it helped me financially as well. It helped me financially to help my parents. I was able to help pay the bills and also afford a second vehicle for my mom to be able to have transportation for work.
Wow, Ray. So when you were in high school, had you given criminal justice any thought? I mean, I know you said you were still trying to kind of figure out where you were headed or what you were going to do.
I'm still figuring out my path, but in high school, they had a forensic science elective, so I was more interested in science and wanted to do forensic science as my career. So I wanted to do something in criminal justice in that field.
So you got to Indian River State College, and what happened? Who did you meet? What clubs did you become involved in? What was your journey like those 2 years?
So my journey was to be involved as much as I can, because to be involved as much as I can, and just to be, because you only live once. Honestly, you only live once, and just to get involved. And the clubs that I was in, I did Carrying Through Crafting. I started crocheting for my freshman year. I started crocheting for 3 years now. So I want to thank the Carrying Through Crafting Club and got involved in SGA last year.
Ray is an incredible crocheter. I follow her on Instagram. She makes all kinds of animals and flowers and hats and bags. Crazy crocheter. It's absolutely awesome. And Ray just mentioned she was active in SGA. SGA is our Student Government Association. Tell us a little bit about that, Ray. What did you do with that group, et cetera?
So the Student Government Association is providing the voice for the students for what they want more for the next year and what we need in anything political anything political or anything that we need to do better for next year. And just to be the voice for students in general, for what they have.
It made for a busy year, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What was your role with SGA?
My role for SGA was secretary, so it's keeping up with documenting the minutes.
And that's a big job all in itself, absolutely. Ray, was there something in your experience, your early experience at Indian River State College, that just let you know that you were on the right path? Did you engage with somebody or have an experience or receive a terrific grade or an awful grade that kind of molded you into who you are now?
I would say it was retention. There were some times that I had some low grades, but I always kept on moving on because there's always a second chance, there's always another chance. So I just keep on moving, and this is going to be funny, but the person that inspired me to keep on moving is Steve Harvey.
Okay, how so?
So Steve Harvey is one of my role models because there are times where I always hesitate and I'm always not, I'm always 50% unsure of myself. But that one quote that always keeps in my mind is trying. There's no trying. You always got to do something. So that was from Steve Harvey's talk show when he was doing Ask Steve. So I always have that, that quote stuck in my head and saying, yeah, I'm going to try. Or I'm not try, but do my best.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Thank you for sharing your story. Okay, Carol Ann, you are up. Carol Ann's got a great story. We both learned today we're from New York, and she had a degree before Indian River State College was even an idea for her. Tell us your story, Carol Ann.
Well, I am going to try to keep this short, but very sweet, okay? So I had no intention of moving to Florida. It was not on my bucket list. It was nowhere in my sights. And so things occurred with my family, with my mother in particular. And so I ended up in Florida. And I remember, okay, I can keep saying I really hate Florida. I really don't want to be here. What am I doing here? But then I thought, you're a grown-up. Come on, pull up your big girl pants and get going. So I took my own advice, and my mother at the time wanted some information from Indian River State College about continuing education as a registered nurse. So I said, okay, well, I'm not working, I'm not doing anything, I'll be your chauffeur. So we came to Indian River State College, and the advisor we spoke with, just get information, Simone is her first name. 5 minutes in, she turns to me, she says, so what's your story? I'm like, well, I don't really have a story. I'm here as the chauffeur. She said, well, no, what are you doing? I said, well, this is what I've been doing for the last 25 years. I was a human resources specialist in Maryland, and I am now in Florida. And she said, well, this is Indian River State College. How about you start some classes? Well, let me tell you, let me cut to the chase. I got up and I was enrolled in classes. And I thought, what the heck just happened? So here I was, enrolled, started at Indian River State College, and I chose an associate's degree, paralegal studies. Did that. Phenomenal advising. I had a million questions, and let me tell you, I kept saying, if I saw me coming, I would be like, oh gosh, here she comes again. But they didn't. They answered question after question. And then when I was finished, Simone said, okay, what are you going to do next? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, you're doing your bachelor's. You're doing a bachelor's. Okay, fine. So I did that. I did a BAS in organizational management. So that was another year and a half. And she said, well, it's a pity we don't have another degree. I said, no, stop, we're done. And so I started working for a university, an online university, and I thought, this is pretty cool. I get to help students? All right, I can live with this. This is good. So things changed there, and I said, all right. And Indian River State College came up in my brain. I said, you know what? I need a part-time job. Let me see what they're doing. Applied for the job, got an interview, and lo and behold, I walk into the interview. Guess who's on the panel? Simone. And I'm thinking, what is she doing here? And she just opened her arms and she said, oh my goodness. And from there, I started working at Indian River State College. And right now, long story short, fast forward, I'm one of the managers of an assessment center, not on this campus, but up in Vero Beach. That's it.
What is the assessment center?
Well, I use assessment simply because when you say to people testing, everybody, it clears the room. Nobody wants to take a test, but it is a necessary evil. And you've got to do it so you get to the next level. So our commitment in the assessment division, the testing center, is to come alongside you to try to make your testing comfortable. No, we can't take the test for you, we can't give you the answers, but at least make your experience as you take your test not pleasant. I struggle with the word pleasant, but to make it so that you don't feel like you want to run out of the room screaming. So while assessment is not the place that people think they want to be, trust me when I tell you, we are there. We're committed to connect with you, to make your experience okay, and also any question you have, we're there to help you.
So what kind of tests are students taking there?
Well, I know a lot of students in here understand the PERT, and that is a placement exam that a lot of students must take, because Indian River State College needs to understand where you are when it comes to math and English. So we never say there's a pass-fail in that. What we say is we want to know where you are so that Indian River State College can better help you. We do things like the TABE exam. We do Florida Civic Literacy exam. That is fairly new, and I say that slowly because it's been maybe 4 years, and that has become a big deal for students because, of course, you need to do that in order to graduate. So that's just a few.
Terrific, thank you. Thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for what you do here at Indian River State College. Absolutely. Okay, Sydney, I'm so excited to hear your story because I don't know you very well. So I'm sure you have a lot to share with us. Tell us how you ended up at Indian River State College, what that journey was like, and maybe a little bit about what you're doing now.
Sure, thank you. So I was introduced to Indian River State College pretty early. There used to be a junior theater program here, and me and my little sister used to do it. I was like 12 or 13, and it was like Beauty and the Beast Junior and Willy Wonka and all these different shows that we did. And so we knew of the theater program here. And so when I got older, I graduated high school in 2019. And I kind of initially wanted to go as far away as possible. I was like, I want to go to a big school. I want to go to school.
Oh my
far away
gosh,
from
that's what I did
Yeah.
going to college.
I was like, I can't do it. Like, I'm very local. I'm in Port St. Lucie. So I'm like, I need to be further. But the way things worked out, I ended up coming here and I auditioned for the theater scholarship program. And I was really blessed to receive that. And I think I definitely, in my mind, I'm thinking it's local. I didn't understand everything that there was to offer here. So I majored in theater, and that was an amazing experience. I was here for a year because I'd done dual enrollment my senior year. And so I met a lot of amazing people. Joe and Adri, the amazing tech team here, was there when I was there still. And so I learned so much from them behind the scenes as well as like on stage. I landed my first lead role in the first play I did, Hedda Gabler here. I was Hedda Gabler. And it was so many lines. It's like a Norwegian play from forever ago. They translated it. It was just a whole task. And it was really challenging, but it was really fun for me. And so once I finished here, I had told my advisor that I wanted to transfer to an HBCU. And we were looking at Spelman College and Howard University in DC. Spelman's in Atlanta. And so she was like, no one's ever done that before from here, but we can do it. And so she went through and combed through all the courses that were needed to the school that I wanted to transfer to. And she made sure that everything would transfer so I didn't have to retake anything. And so I transferred to Spelman College in Atlanta. It's the #1 HBCU in America, and it was an amazing experience there as well. I did take a gap year. I fast forwarded. So I did a year at IRC. I did a gap year because in 2020, COVID and everything. And so I didn't want to go to school online. I was like, I still got to go far. So that was really cool. So I did 2 years in Atlanta for that school, and I graduated as valedictorian in 2023. And then I came back here, and I'm working at an arts program called End It. It's like not too far from here. And it's kind of full circle because now I direct children's plays, like the ones I used to do. So High School Musical, we just did Aladdin, Camp Rock. We do like these big productions here on IRC stage. And I get to work with Joe and Adri and Olivia here as well. So it's
Living
kind
the
of a
dream.
circle.
Got away from home for a couple of years, but
Right.
right back here. Wow. I understand you've been in some commercials, some movies. Tell us a little bit about that part of life.
Sure. So I signed with an agency in 2021, and I don't think I could have done that without the experience that I got from IRC and the confidence that it gave me. But I signed with Forward Agency in Atlanta, and then I did fantasy football on Nickelodeon. I had a small role in there as like a mean girl. And then most recently, I did a commercial with Delta Airlines. I've done Gotham Knights. It's a TV show that was on the CW. I had a small role in there. And The Idea of You, which was on Amazon with Anne Hathaway. I was in there briefly. And then, I'm missing one. Will Trent on ABC. So I had a small role in there.
Wow. And where did the shooting take place on some of those? I'm purely curious.
Yeah, they were in Atlanta, so it'd be kind of crazy. I'd have classes and everything, and I'd have to call my teachers and be like, I have to be on set for like 3 days, but I'll be back. And so I'd have to go on set for those days, and it was long. It was kind of off location in Atlanta, like it'd be out on the outskirts of somewhere, or we'd have to travel like, to a certain location and then come back. So it was really, really fun. It was an amazing experience.
Wow. And I'm just blown away that you got your start as a kid on this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It
Wow.
was so
Really,
life-changing.
really
I didn't
fun.
realize.
How do you feel that your experience here prepared you for real life? For your career?
I think in a lot of ways. I think education-wise, I definitely didn't take it for granted once I was here. Like, okay, I need to stay local, or okay, this isn't what I ideally had for me. But I took advantage of everything from my history classes. I didn't want to do anything in history. I was a theater major, my math classes, but I took everything really seriously and tried to see how I could apply it to my major, what I wanted to do, So just, budgeting, spending, things like that. You need to know a little bit of statistics or a little bit of algebra for those kinds of things. So I just kind of tried to filter everything that I was getting through the path that I wanted to take and what I wanted to do with my life. But I learned a lot of things. Student success taught me so many principles. I took notes all throughout high school and college because I'd taken student success, I think, my freshman year. And so everything was on paper. That taught me how to take notes. It taught me how to make presentations, group projects, that I kind of dreaded in high school and in college, but it shaped me so much, and I'm really grateful for that.
Wow, thank you for sharing your story.
Of course, thank you.
One of the things I was thinking as I've listened to these stories is, what could I have done differently or better during my own college experience? To tell my story briefly, I, very much like Sydney, decided to go to the furthest away college that accepted me. I was ready to live my life and obviously party because I got kicked out after the first semester. Went off to the University of Dayton in Ohio, got a .85 GPA that first semester. Didn't go to class much, never met with a professor, never asked for any help, had a really good time, but screwed up royally. And I think back to that and I wonder what I could have done differently. And I mean, the number one thing that I would say to you is ask for help. And of course, go to class, but ask for help. I think I was too intimidated. As a young person going to college, I thought, I've got to figure this all out by myself. And it was pretty much a disaster. Of course, I did go back, I finished college, got a master's degree after that. But I think back to my overall college experience, and I wish I'd been involved in more clubs. I wish I had made the effort to make more friends. I wish I had worked harder at staying connected to where I went to college. And those are some of the things I think about. Do any of you have a thought about, was there something you didn't take advantage of or you didn't do when you were here?
At the time, I think it was more so getting involved because I was trying to balance work and school. But I think, like you said there, if you even carve out maybe one club, or actually, I kind of thought about what you were just saying, like even maybe having study time on campus to be more connected. I would always study at home, and I'm thinking, and yes, when we had class and with the fellow nursing students, and when I got involved in the program, but taking that time, maybe like in hindsight, if I would have maybe come to campus and take advantage of maybe the labs and stuff and study the networking, that probably would have been expanded a little bit more. I mean,
Right.
I still moved forward, but when you think back, I'm thinking a little bit more connection on campus, even though I was local, probably would have, probably something I would have probably taken more advantage of now, knowing what I didn't know then.
Boy, there's so much that we didn't know
Yes.
then. Boy, oh boy. Anyone else?
Well, I'm not going to phrase it as stuff that I would have liked to have done. But what I will tell you as a student who is trying to figure it out, some students who come to Indian River State College kind of sort of have it figured out because maybe they're older, they've seen a little bit of the world. But for students who are coming out of high school, you're trying to figure it out. And trust me, the folks at Indian River State College get that. And what they want you to do is ask for help. It doesn't matter how simple or how complicated the question is, or what you think of the question. It doesn't matter. Ask the question. And here is the commitment, and it's a renewed commitment to you from Indian River State College. If you encounter someone who has maybe a name tag on that tells you they work at the campus and you have a question, you know what? Ask your question, because the commitment is that that person, they may not know the answer, but what they are committed to doing is getting you the right answer, getting you to the place you need to be. And oh, by the way, we do follow up. And I'll tell this story very quickly. Yesterday, I came out of my office. I'm heading to the front of my building where I work on the Mueller campus in Vero Beach. And the student services area is humming. You know, students are there, they're waiting to see advising, they're waiting for financial aid, all sorts of things. And there's a couple that I almost passed, they're in line. And the lady, the wife looked and she said, "Oh, you work here?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, we're trying to pick up books for our daughter so that she's ready for next week. And they said we need to go to something port 90 or 60. I said, "Oh, no problem. You don't have to stand in line. Let me show you where it is." So I just took them around the corner, and the husband started laughing. He said, "Why would you believe we just passed this place coming in here?" And I said, "I'll wait, ensure that you are okay." No, we're good. So I continue my walk, had another student stop me. We talked for a while. By the time I get to the parking lot, they make the corner, and they're like, "Oh, we meet again." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Everything okay with the books?" "Yes, you don't understand. You saved us hours." And I said, "No, it's no big deal. It's okay. I wish you all the best and your daughter." And it suddenly occurred to me. I said, to the mother, I said, "Tell your daughter that she is coming to an institution that is here to partner with her. There is not a question that she will have that we will not try to ensure that the answer is yes." And she stopped. She said, "Okay, thank you so much." That was a 2-minute conversation. And she said, "I'm going to go home and tell my daughter that." And it was obvious that they felt a little more comfortable, a little more relieved. And so that's simply what I will say. The commitment to you is real.
Ray and Sydney, did you feel that same sense that the faculty and staff here were really committed to making your journey, as easy as possible in providing resources, extra help, whatever it may be?
Absolutely.
So yes, 100%. And even including the advising office in the W building, the advising center has always helped me, even followed up with me, even if I ever have a question. But I do want to give one tip for students is to always make an appointment. That's the #1 priority.
With your advisor?
Yep, with your advisor.
Early on in the first semester? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yep, early on, if you ever get like a text message from IRSC or Indian River State College, is saying that, the starting time for registering is this date, automatically make an appointment.
Got it. Sydney?
I would definitely say, even with professors, the office hours, taking advantage of that if you don't understand something. I love that they keep their doors open. And, if you didn't understand something during class, and then you ask the question, you still didn't get it, like there's so many opportunities. Even during COVID, which was, kind of a hard time online, they would make time. And, do you need Zoom office hours? They offered those things. Advising for sure. Like I said, that was really important in my journey because I hadn't seen anyone do what I wanted to do. As far as the school that I wanted to go to, also being a theater major, people think you're just like running around doing improv and those are your classes. Like there's really a study to it.
Exactly, you're not taking math or science, yeah.
Right. So like trying to, I think articulate what I wanted for myself to my advisor, and she was just like, okay, sure. Like there was never any doubts. Her name is Terry. I don't know if she's still here, but she was amazing. Okay, she's amazing. She really took her time. She didn't make me feel rushed. Like, we have an hour to get this together. It was as long as I needed, and she was really thorough. So I really appreciate that.
Terrific. Okay, another question for all of you. What's one piece of advice each of you would give to our incoming students?
I would say get involved as much as you can because once again, you only live once.
Absolutely. And, as I walk around our campus, and I'm based on our campus right here, it's those kids that have gotten, or older adults that have gotten involved that I see frequently, that I'm able to build relationships with, that become friends. Getting involved is key for sure. Carol Ann?
I probably preempted you before, but I'm so passionate about it. I spoke about this before. Just really, if you have a question, if you're unsure about anything, and oh, by the way, that includes the choices that you make with respect to your pathing, just remember, your advisor is one of your partners, and they will help you because the whole point of this is for you to succeed. So ask away.
I would definitely say kind of not taking it for granted, as I mentioned before, taking your experience here for granted, and taking advantage of all the resources that you can, and kind of don't be afraid of making mistakes. So I worked a lot of like odd jobs in this process. I worked at Planet Fitness, I worked at Starbucks, I did like kids' birthday parties, for a second. So really like don't be ashamed of what's good for you. And like if you need to take a gap year, if you need to take more or less classes, and kind of accommodate it to make it fit the mold for you, I think that's really important, and not overlooking anything. I met a lot of amazing people and people I'm still friends with. I had a group project in like an English class. I still talk to that person. And when I was a theater major, there were people that I'm still in contact with. So you never know who you might meet, who your professors could refer you to, or if they have a connection in your field. So definitely make sure you take advantage of that.
You hit on it right there, connections. Anybody you meet provides potential connections, whether it's with regard to a future career. Totally, connections, all about it. Kathy?
Just to kind of continue what Sydney said, I think it's one thing that I really enjoy the time that you're spending. You have a commitment that you're going to pursue your education, but enjoy the time that you're you're going down this journey and that you're involved with a college, because it's a precious time. But just what she was saying is that, find that fit for you, find those people that you can network with and connect with, because you never know where those paths reconnect. I've seen a lot of that in my career, that being an alumni and connecting with people who actually, graduated from here and they're in different positions throughout the community. But I do think that you need to kind of pause and remember that what this time is, and regardless if you're coming back to school or you just graduating from high school, it's all the same, that you need to take that piece of what this is and recognize that it's a big commitment, and that enjoy it and look for your future. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Here you go.
Yeah, so this is a question. So this is a question for Miss Sydney, sorry. What do you think you had to have in place in order to get, in order to land those roles that you landed? Like with the thing with Nickelodeon and the commercial with Delta and all that?
Yeah, I would say definitely you get a lot of rejection in the industry. Is that something that you wanted to go into as well, the performing industry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of rejection, as well as you get a few yeses, but it's also a lot of no's. I was getting auditions like almost every day and passing them up because I had exams and different things like that. And then what stuck, but definitely not giving up, and don't doubt yourself and your own abilities. I think if I had given up early, like, oh, I didn't get the role, the first few months of being signed, or I still haven't gotten anything, and kind of giving up or kind of getting to a place in my head to where I'm doubting myself, I don't think I would have been able to achieve that. So definitely, like, if you're looking at signing somewhere, like with an agency, or getting involved in a local theater or something, rejection is, always an option, or like it's a possibility, but don't doubt your own abilities. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. So just knowing that for yourself, I think.
I have like 3 more questions. And I might forget them, but
Okay.
So what sort of things did you have to tell yourself so you didn't like give up or just like stop?
I think with building my confidence, I think definitely practice, and like critiquing myself, and like being honest with myself about what I wanted to do. Affirmations, it sounds so cliche, but like just affirmations, prayer worked a lot for me. Because you can get in a space in your head, and especially, I know during the COVID years, I would kind of get discouraged or feeling like, doubting myself more and more. But I think you're your biggest cheerleader and your biggest critic. So just being aware of those things and being mindful of what you're telling yourself.
And try to be a bigger cheerleader than a critic.
For sure.
Because we all criticize ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we can cheer for ourselves, that really helps.
Absolutely.
Can I ask one more question?
Line up behind him.
Actually, it just slipped my mind. Hold on.
We can go back.
We can come back to you.
Yeah, my bad.
Just raise your hand. Anybody else? Okay, we've got,
Can you catch? Oh, perfect.
yay.
So I guess it's a question for like everyone, but like for you, what was like the biggest difference from like high school to college? Like I guess that's the question, yeah.
Great question.
I'll go first. I would say a lot. A lot has happened. Because if the Promise Program didn't exist, I wouldn't be here sitting in front of you all, or even speaking with all of you. I wouldn't be here. So that would be a big difference. I wouldn't really be here.
I had a brief answer to that. In high school, you're pretty well supported by your teachers, guidance counselors. I want you to know the same thing remains here. I worked at another university prior to coming here, and what I've witnessed here is just this absolute genuine caring about the students and wanting them to succeed. And not that the other place I worked didn't do that, but I have noticed it, I don't know, on a deeper, more consistent level here. I look back now, high school in some ways was a breeze. And college, as you learned, I went off and partied thinking I knew everything in the world. You've got to take responsibility for you. That's it. I mean, there's people here to help you, but you have to be responsible for you. Other thoughts?
I was just gonna say, friendships. I feel like I hated high school. I hated high school, and it's so cliquey, and people are just people, and it's so much going on. But I feel like in college you meet your lifelong friends, and that's a lot of the feedback that I got going in, and I didn't really believe it at first. But there's just there's so many people and so many different types of people, and people are more so coming into who they are, I guess. So it's kind of easier to find your circle. So definitely taking advantage of clubs and getting plugged in with people and in your classes and group chats and things like that.
I would also add to that, Indian River State College wants you to be yourself, your authentic self, right? So in the testing center, I have students who come in and they are very unsure. They're gonna sit a test, they're not, and we tell them things like, all right, take a deep breath before you sit down. Do you need some water? I mean, all sorts of things we come alongside them and tell them. And you can also, when they're finished, you can also tell when they're hesitant, they have a question. And when they get their results, they're looking. I would say, never, ever, ever think that your question is stupid or silly. Doesn't matter, ask the question, because we want to help you, right? We want to help you to get to the next level. Yeah, it's not high school, but we're here to we've entered your journey with you. Next step. That's what I'd say.
I have like one more. What has been like the hardest thing for you in like college, and like what did you do to like overcome it?
I'm sorry, who's that question for? Any of us?
Everyone, anyone.
Anyone, okay. Well,
Oh my goodness, okay. Knowing my college journey, I truly was failing a class after I went back to school. And believe it or not, I was in my last semester of college. I was pregnant with my first baby, and I thought, if I cannot pass this class, I'm not going to graduate, and I'm going to have to come back to school and take one more class. And truly, it was that asking for help thing. It was going to the professor and basically saying, what do I have to do to pass your class? And the professor took the time, mapped it out. I had to work really, really hard and managed to pass the class. So that was my story.
I believe too. I think it's also asking for help, but actually time management, because what happens when from high school you have a support system. It's kind of all aligned for you. It's start and finish. This is what's going to happen on this day. When you enter college, depending on what courses, what major, what's expected of you, if you have, in my profession, clinicals, and then if you have to hold down a full-time job. So you're trying to really, and if you've not really been versed or someone's shown you how to manage your time, it can be very overwhelming, because you're like, okay, I'm expected to be at X, Y, and Z, but I have to provide, food, roof, and go to the job. So I felt very early on that transition from high school to college and then entering is, how am I going to manage my time, and how does that look? And actually, I going to my employer and say, you know what, I'm very flexible on X, Y, and Z. Is this something we can do? Or really kind of getting ahead of asking questions for like the next semester. Sometimes I would, not that you can always plan that far in advance, but I think a lot of that alleviated a lot of the stress, knowing that, okay, if I kind of had it planned out, just because sometimes you can have a lot on your plate due to how many courses you're taking, and then quite honestly, if you're working even part-time or full-time, you're trying to meet the needs of your employer who's expecting this, and then you're trying to satisfy your education. And even if you're not having to work, it's still that time management of like, okay, how is my day going to be productive? Where am I going to be? And then all of a sudden, you have 5 courses and everyone's testing on the same day. That can be very, very pragmatic of, okay, what's my priority? And if you're not accustomed to that, it makes it very difficult. So going back to what basically all of this panel has said, ask the questions, find someone you can talk to, reach out to a friend, an advisor, somebody on campus, an instructor, a coach, anybody that you can have support you, because I think that's a piece that is not necessarily taught. And I know in my career, it's expected a lot. Nurses have to know, and they come in, and a lot of the new novice nurses, that's what we're trying to really support, because that is a area that we see that they come in and they're not accustomed to. You know, they know schedules and things, but when you're having to prioritize and go, okay, what do I think is a priority may not meet what the overall need is for that patient. I'm just using something I'm familiar with. It becomes, you know, it becomes frustrating. So I think people maybe have to take a step back, because that's something that's not necessarily taught, but you know, if you can develop it, it will help you later in life 100%.
And I'll add something to that very quickly. I remember I was so laser focused on finishing my college algebra class, and I said, I am going to take it in the summer session. And I was talking to people in my core group, and they were like, in the summer, college algebra? You might want to rethink that, because, you know, summer sessions are short. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. So when I spoke with my advisor, and I had started, I said, this is not going well at all. And I started to hyperventilate, because I said, you know what? This is going to be a problem. I'm not going to pass this class. And I went on, and she allowed me to talk. And then she said, who said that you have to do it in the summer? Who told you that? And I said, well, I told myself that. I want to get it out of the way. She said, well, I'll tell you what. Here's a suggestion. Withdraw from the class, and you think about it, and your next semester, the fall, we register you to take that. Stop putting pressure on yourself, undue pressure. And we do that sometimes. So just remember, you're young. Don't pressure yourself. Yes, you have a responsibility, and you're committed to yourself, but don't pressure yourself.
We have another question over here.
I was just going to add, I had an interesting story, because it kind of goes along, because we're talking about new students, and new students can be of any age. I remember, only because you jogged my memory about algebra, I remember having, for my bachelor's, having to unexpectedly retake an algebra class. And walking in, it was an evening class, and feeling very alone, very isolated, because I was an older student returning to college. And so I was very apprehensive. But the point I want to make to that is that I actually remember crying and being in tears, because the material was, I hadn't had it in a while. But there was a vibe in the room, and actually a younger student reached out to me, much younger than me, and there were several other people, and I ended up in a study group with people that I would have never probably connected with. They were probably my daughter's age, but it's just to kind of highlight that at any level that you're re-entering back into school, I was going to be totally alone in that class, that I was very apprehensive, because I read the room and I was like, okay. I was in tears half the time. But there was a group that just saw that, reached out to me, and one thing led to another. So you can't go in making those assumptions, because I ended up doing fairly well, but they, like I said, they were much younger than me, and they actually took me under their wing to help me pass that class. So I'm ever grateful. But just because I know there's a lot of students of all different ages entering, as new students.
Absolutely.
Okay. You have a question down there?
Yes.
Okay. My question is for Sydney. As somebody who is not majoring in theater and is quickly regretting his decision not to be, would you say that joining the theater club here is a good option too? And also, is it wholly necessary for somebody who's trying to be an actor too? Is it wholly necessary to move to a major market like Atlanta, LA, and New York? or I don't really have to?
Those are good questions. For sure, join the shows are open to everyone, right?
I'm just gonna take that one. I'm the house manager here. Hi, Althea. I'm gonna take the first one. You take the second
Okay.
one. Yeah, you can, we have auditions tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and you can be in shows here. You can be involved in theater. It doesn't have to be your major. We've had people in biology, in nursing that have come in and done shows and things like that. It is wide open. I'm always looking for ushers, and you get to see a show for free. So, you know, lots of opportunity. It doesn't have to be your major or even your lifelong dream. If you're just interested and want to hang out and try it out, we're here. I'll let Sydney take that the second
Hi,
one.
it's Joe from the back of the room. I'm going to jump in at this time too and say, just to say yes, auditions are tomorrow at 12 o'clock and the Wynn Black Box Theater just next door in the R building. And if you're interested in crewing a show, if you want to learn how to run a sound console or a lighting console or help build scenery or things like that, we're looking for folks to help with that too. You do not have to be a major to participate, and it's a ton of fun. So noon tomorrow
And you
in the
don't
Black
have
Box
to have
Theater.
anything prepared tomorrow. Just come, show up.
Nice job, you two.
Yeah, thank you. Said it better than I could have.
Sydney.
Yeah, so for the big cities, I think I initially thought that because that's what you see on TV. That's what you see people talking about. You know, I moved to LA and I didn't have the budget to move to LA or Atlanta, you know, at a certain point. So I definitely think it's not required. I think if you could get started somewhere like Fort Pierce or Port St. Lucie or wherever you are and just start building your resume, you know what I mean? So that when you go to an agency, then you have a list of things that you're solid with and comfortable in. You played a bunch of different types of roles. But yeah, I wouldn't overlook a smaller city at all. I think you could definitely do big things here.
Thank you. That was my
I
only
think we
question.
have time for one more question.
Oh, okay.
Good catch.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. To the guy over there, if you know who Miles Teller is, he actually is from my county and went to, look up Lecanto High School. That's where he graduated from. Very small, middle of nowhere town. So you can do it from a small town. You can do it from anywhere.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So I was wondering if you guys have any advice for those of us who aren't just out of high school, who are a little older and have a lot going on. I work 40, 50 hours a week. I'm currently planning a wedding for next October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Working second jobs as well. I'm currently getting my business admin to be a project manager where I work. My fiance and I are extremely busy, but I'm a very type A person, so if it was up to me, I would just take all my classes and leave. But my fiance suggested to do other things. So how do I balance finishing work, doing school, picking up extracurriculars here and stuff without going overboard?
Well, just from my past experience, it is very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it but the thing is there is an end in sight. You have a goal. And so there's going to be times where it all kind of merges together, where you have to kind of reshuffle that. And I use the word sacrifice because I remember when I went back for my bachelor's, we were opening a hospital. I had 2 kids in school and one involved in sports, which took a lot of the time, because you want to be there for your kids and you want to be at every event and you want to be able to plan. But you also have to be okay with telling yourself that it's okay when things get complicated, and that look at what your end goal is and not beat yourself up too much, because there's a lot of self-doubt that ends up happening because did I make the right choice when you have so much on your plate. It will start balancing itself out as you complete certain courses or the wedding is wonderful and you move to the next phase. But I think you have to pause and give yourself some grace. Otherwise, it'll be too much, because if you don't do that, then yeah, you're gonna feel like things are just kind of unraveling. But it can be done, and sometimes it's just different moments in time in your life. And I know, like myself, I remember, having certain projects due and having to, at the time I was a manager or working into a manager role. So when I went to my bachelor's, I had opening a new hospital with a leadership responsibility with my kids, kind of going and it was tough. But you get through it, and you kind of have to lean on some people. And I ended up leaning on people that I didn't expect that would be supportive. I actually was very transparent in my place of employment. Not that I was asking for any special treatment, but I wanted them to know I was heavily involved in school and that I was heavily involved in doing this. And so I think if you're just open and honest, people are least expected are willing to work with you. Like I said, and I ended up finding somebody who supported me through that I never thought would have, just because I made the comment that I want to complete my bachelor's before the hospital had opened. And next thing I knew, I had somebody who was like in my corner. So.
And make sure and take care of yourself along the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Do not forget to take care of yourself, because that's what's going to help you through everything.
100%.
You know, and we spoke about time management. I can remember a time in my life when I had gone back to school, had 3 kids, etc. And I remember creating a daily schedule where I even put in 15 minutes to read the newspaper. Because if I didn't have that schedule, I would have been doing something else at that time. But I loved reading the paper. Does anybody even know what a newspaper is anymore? Anyway, but I would really break it down almost to like 15-minute or half-hour segments, my day. But I always tried to include a little something for me. We could talk all day. I especially could talk for a week straight. I want to thank you for coming. I hope that you learned some things. Out in the lobby, there's a table. There are small square-shaped business cards. Those are mine. I want you to know that you have a friend on this campus, and I am always available. Pop into the A building. My name is Laura, and if I don't have the answer, I'm going to help you figure out what the answer is. I want to thank our guests, Ray, Carol Ann, Sydney, and Kathy. I really appreciated your transparency and, of course, your willingness to be here and share your stories of the river. That is Voices of the River. Thanks for being here.